Hello. In this long thought, I've been thinking about something that feels difficult to describe but impossible to ignore. There is a kind of noise in modern life that isn't audible. It doesn't come from traffic or construction or crowded rooms. It's quieter than that. And yet somehow it feels louder than anything we've experienced before. It's the feeling that our minds are never fully still. Even in silence, something inside us keeps flickering. I've noticed that even when I sit down to rest, there's a subtle restlessness underneath the surface, a quiet urge to check something, to look at something, to fill the empty space with input. And I don't think this is accidental. I think it's a condition of the time we live in. Modern life feels mentally noisy, not because we lack quiet spaces, but because we no longer inhabit them the way we once did. There is always something pulling at the edge of our attention, a notification we haven't checked, a message we haven't replied to, a video we haven't watched, a headline we haven't read, and even when there is nothing actively demanding us, the possibility of something demanding us lingers in the background. It is as if our minds have learned to anticipate interruption, and that anticipation itself becomes a kind of noise. I sometimes imagine what it must have felt like to live in a world where information did not move instantly, where news arrived slowly, where letters took days or weeks, where boredom was not a problem to be solved, but a normal feature of being alive. There were certainly hardships in those times. There was physical labor, disease, uncertainty. But there was also a different relationship to attention. Attention was not constantly extracted, it was directed. Today, attention has become the most valuable resource in the world. Entire industries are built not around producing goods, but around capturing seconds of your focus. The attention economy is not a metaphor. It is literal. Companies measure how long you stay, how often you return, what makes you pause, what makes you click, what makes you feel something strong enough to react. And the more intense the emotional reaction, the better outrage spreads, fear spreads, shock spreads. Calm does not spread, stillness does not trend, long thought does not compete well with instant stimulation. So the system optimizes for what keeps you activated, and slowly, without noticing it happen, our internal environment begins to mirror that activation. There's something deeply disorienting about this, because the human nervous system was not designed for continuous novelty. For most of history, novelty was rare. Now it is constant. Every scroll brings something new. Every refresh brings something new. Every few seconds, something different. Our brains respond to novelty with dopamine. Dopamine is not pleasure exactly. It's anticipation. It's the signal that something rewarding might happen. And when novelty is endless, anticipation becomes endless. You are always about to see something interesting. You are always one swipe away from something slightly more engaging than the current moment. Over time, this trains the mind. Stillness becomes uncomfortable. Slowness becomes irritating. Silence feels empty instead of restful. The baseline shifts, and what once felt normal, sitting with a thought, reading slowly, staring out a window, now feels like deprivation. I've noticed this in myself. There are moments when I try to read a book, and after a few pages, I feel an almost physical urge to reach for my phone. Not because I need anything, not because something is wrong, but because my mind expects stimulation at a faster rate. It's subtle, but it's there. And I wonder how many of us mistake this feeling for something else. We say, I can't focus. I'm just tired. I'm unmotivated. But maybe we are simply overstimulated. There is a difference. Fatigue can come from doing too much, but mental noise often comes from doing too little deeply. Too many shallow inputs, too many small fragments, too many partial thoughts, and very few sustained ones. When everything is fragmented, the mind begins to fragment with it. We read half an article, we watch half a video, we skim headlines, we jump between tabs, we open messages mid-task. We multitask in ways that aren't truly multitasking, but rapid switching. Every switch has a cost, even if we don't feel it. Cognitively, attention is not infinite. It takes effort to reorient, to dive back into something, to remember where we were. But modern systems reward interruption. They are designed to interrupt, because interruption creates engagement. If you are calmly focused on one thing for an hour, you are not generating clicks. If you are calmly reading a long essay, you are not refreshing. If you are simply sitting quietly, you are not measurable. So the structure of the digital world is built against depth, not intentionally, maliciously perhaps, but structurally. Depth does not scale easily. Shallow engagement does. And then there is the emotional layer. Modern life doesn't just bombard us with information. It bombards us with emotion. We are exposed daily to global crises, political outrage, cultural conflict, personal tragedies, curated success, public humiliation, endless comparison, all within minutes. The human mind evolved to process emotion within small communities. Now, we process emotion at planetary scale. You can wake up and before even leaving your bed, feel anger about something happening thousands of miles away. Feel envy towards someone you've never met. Feel fear about events that may never directly affect you. It's too much. Not morally too much, not intellectually too much, neurologically too much. The mind absorbs signals it was never designed to handle at this frequency, and so it hums, it vibrates, it rarely rests. What makes this even more complicated is that the noise is invisible. If a factory were outside your house all night, you would recognize the disturbance. You would name it. But when the disturbance is internal, it becomes harder to diagnose. You may simply feel uneasy, distracted, scattered, vaguely anxious, unable to settle, and because everyone else seems equally restless, it feels normal. We normalize noise. We assume this is just how modern life is. But I'm not sure it has to feel like this. Sometimes I think about silence, not just the absence of sound, but the absence of input. When was the last time you experienced a stretch of time where nothing was trying to reach you? No messages, no feeds, no background audio, no information pipeline, just your own thoughts. For many of us, that space is rare, and when it appears, it can feel uncomfortable. We've grown used to external stimulation organizing our internal landscape. Without it, we feel slightly lost, as if the mind doesn't know where to go. There is something almost tragic about that, because thought itself requires slowness. To think deeply about anything, a question, a book, a problem, your own life, requires uninterrupted time. It requires boredom. It requires lingering, but boredom has become intolerable. The moment a line is slow, we skip. The moment a video drags, we speed it up. The moment a pause appears, we fill it. We don't wait for thoughts to unfold. We scroll past them. And so modern life feels noisy, not because it is loud, but because it is continuous. There is no natural stopping point. The feed does not end. The messages do not stop. The stream does not conclude. You could scroll forever. There is always more. That endlessness does something subtle to the psyche. It removes the boundary. Historically, there were natural boundaries to experience. The day ended, the letter ended, the book ended, the newspaper had a final page. Now there is no final page, and when there is no final page, there is no signal to rest. I sometimes wonder what this is doing to our sense of time. When every moment contains the possibility of interruption, time itself begins to feel fragmented. You check your phone, 5 minutes pass. You check again. Another 10 minutes dissolve. The day feels both fast and strangely empty. There is activity, but not depth. Movement, but not direction. We are busy, but in small, disjointed increments. And at the end of the day, the mind feels tired, but not satisfied, exhausted, but not fulfilled. Perhaps this is why long-form content has quietly found an audience again. Not because people suddenly became more intellectual, but because they are hungry for something sustained, for something that does not demand constant reaction, for something that unfolds slowly. There is relief in slowness, even if we've forgotten how to sit with it. I don't think technology itself is evil. It has given us access to knowledge, connection, creativity, but it has also reorganized our inner lives. The default state of the mind is no longer idle, It is alert, expectant, scanning. And when that state becomes constant, it begins to feel like noise. There is a kind of quiet that used to exist naturally, waiting in line, sitting on a bus, walking alone, staring out a window. These were small pockets where the mind wandered. Now those pockets are often filled. We fill them reflexively, and over time, we may forget what wandering even feels like. The strange thing is that beneath all the noise, the mind still wants depth. You can feel it, the desire to think clearly, to understand something fully, to stay with an idea long enough for it to mature. But clarity requires subtraction, and modern systems are designed around addition, more content, more updates, more signals, more urgency. Noise accumulates. Clarity requires space. I'm not offering a solution here. I'm not saying delete everything, move to the countryside, throw away your phone. That would be too simple. Modern life is complex. We are embedded in it, but perhaps the first step is simply noticing that the noise exists. Noticing that restlessness is not always personal failure. Noticing that difficulty focusing may not mean you are broken. It may mean your attention has been trained to expect interruption, and training can be reversed, or at least softened. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is allow a moment to remain empty, to resist filling it. To let a thought begin without forcing it to conclude, to sit in the quiet hum and observe it, not judge it, not fix it, just notice it. Because awareness itself introduces space, and space is the opposite of noise. Modern life may remain fast, the feeds may continue, the notifications may not disappear, but inside that structure, there can still be moments, small ones, where the mind settles, where the urge to reach dissolves, where nothing is happening. And that is enough. Maybe the noise is not permanent. Maybe it is simply the sound of a mind adjusting to a world that changed faster than it could adapt. And maybe, slowly, we can remember what it feels like to think without interruption, to let a single thought extend, to follow it without switching, to stay for just a little longer than we used to. If modern life feels mentally noisy, perhaps that feeling is not weakness. Perhaps it is sensitivity, a sign that something inside you still longs for depth, still longs for quiet, still longs for a long thought. And maybe that longing itself is the beginning of clarity.